And now, Deborah Kobylt Live.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm so honored to have our guest with us today, Dr. Dravon James, who wrote this terrific book, the first of a five-part series, Freedom is Your Birthright. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
You are delightful. You're also a speaker, you're a coach. You do so much to help others, learn about what our struggles are and how we can, in simple ways, help ourselves guide us through what's disturbing us from the inside, right? Is that a good
You,
way to describe it?
it's an excellent way to describe it because you said disturbing us from the inside, right? Would you believe, we have to believe that our external world is an outpicturing of our internal condition, right? So we fix that inside, and the way we move through this world, this journey becomes a lot more pleasant.
I said this to you on the phone. This is the kind of stuff that they need to teach right side by side with reading, writing, and arithmetic. How to control yourself, your emotions, how to keep it together. We don't all learn that at home, right? We all have different journeys from home, and we all come into adulthood with different ways of handling things. And it takes decades sometimes to figure it all out. So, this is important stuff. Let's talk a little bit about you. How did you grow up? I know you said your mom had a huge influence on you, but could you tell us a little bit about who you were to get to this point of writing Freedom is Your Birthright?
Yeah, you made an interesting point. You said it takes decades to get yourself together, and I am a representation of that,
Yeah,
right?
me too.
Right.
Yep.
So I'm from the south side of Chicago, which is a wonderful place to be from. I had a wonderful family, but we had a lot of issues with poverty and all that brings. And I tell people, so if you've not experienced homelessness, good for you. Right? I
Because
we
you were homeless, right?
Yeah, so
And
we had that experience a few times in our lifetime. And the beautiful thing about that, if there's anything beautiful in that, but I do believe there is something to be grateful for in every experience, is that we spent a lot of time together, my mom and my brother and sister and I. And during that time, my mom did some amazing things. Didn't think they were that amazing when we were growing up, but she somehow managed to have us in church twice a week at a New Thought church on Saturday and at a Pentecostal church on Sundays. I didn't know it at the time, but it was framing who I was going to become as a woman, because that journey changed me. That information. Go ahead. You had a
no, I'm
question.
interested. I'm listening. Go ahead.
So that journey changed me. I didn't know it at the time, but my mom would say something all the time, like, when you get to church on Sunday, don't mention what happened at the New Thought Church on Saturday, right? And same thing on Saturday. Don't mention the Pentecostal church on Sunday. And as the oldest of three kids, I had this inquisitive mind asking all these questions. I'm like, why? Why can't we talk about it? She goes, oh, they just would never understand. But to me, it was the same message packaged differently. The people were different, the ceremonies were different, but it was the same message. So it was really penetrating into me, and I didn't know at the time, but it was a little seed, like they said, a little mustard seed taking root. And something really great happened when I graduated from high school. My brother gave me a book, The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale.
We all know that book. It's a great book, but the effect it had on you was tremendous. Tell us.
So that book, how it's a tiny book. I fell in love with tiny books,
Yeah.
right?
And you're a
Tiny
tiny book person. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
am. I like to, give me a point and hit it hard. So that's what that book did for me. It really gave me insight into what I wanted to do with my life, because I read that book about 20 times before I left for college. He gave it to me maybe in June. I left for college in August. Right. But I knew that whatever Norman Vincent Peale had done for me, which is to show me that really the power to have the life and to be at peace and tranquility, all that was within me. It had nothing to do with my external situation that was pouring out of me. And I just felt so energized. And here I am, a 17-year-old kid. And really, I tell people, I thought at that point what Norman Vincent Peale knew that I didn't know was how to have a life without problems. Right. So I figured out, I have evolved. Right. I figured out that's not what he did. He showed me, planted the seed for me on how to take everything that shows up in my life and use it for a stepping stone to create the life of my dreams. I call it my next level of good. Right. And so that's what I did from that. Yeah,
We
that's my
talked
life.
about that. We talked a little about that because you and I spoke on the phone quite extensively. And what's amazing to me is how you didn't really get into the blame game. I find that that's very common with people. It's like, well, you did this to me and you did that, and I can't stop thinking about it. How do you get out of that victim mentality, or how did you get out, or how would you advise?
Because,
Because,
I
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
victim is powerless. And if there is one thing that you learn from poverty is that you do want to have some degree of power over your life, right? So you can either be the victim or the victor, right? And so, and I don't know, like this is this trio of experiences I had, right? I had this, New Thought Church, I had this Pentecostal church, and then I had Norman Vincent Peale, right? So this triangle of faith that was forming around me,
Wow.
believe in that my power to get to my next level of good, my next level of service, my next level of greatness, if you will, was within me. And that meant that I had to have the victory, not the victimhood. Yeah, everybody goes through something. So I either could say, oh, woe is me. This is the end of me. This is where my life ends. Or look at this. This happened to me. And as a result, this happened. I get to decide what happens to me, as a result, what comes after that. As a result, I did this. As a result, I discovered this. As a result, I let go of this. That's power. That's power.
It must have been very frightening, being homeless. So how many years were you homeless, or were you in and out of homelessness
It
as
was
you were a
in,
young person?
yeah, it was in and out. And then one time when I was in college, so alone, in and out with a
Wow.
family is one thing, but alone is another thing, right? So yeah, but it was in and out. So it was, you'd be without a place and then with the place and without a place. Yeah.
I often say that many people are about a step away from homelessness, and people don't quite realize that, and never to judge someone on a corner. And there are plenty of homeless families. We just don't see them. They tend to hide away in places that are not easily visible, right? Because, am I correct about that? A
No,
lot of times you'll see an individual on a corner, but you might not see a whole family. It's very distressing.
when I think about it, I'm reminded of that what Tennessee Williams in that plays is I've always relied on the kindness of strangers. And
Mm,
that really, really what happens is that you would be amazed at how much kindness there is out there, because that's not mainstream, is it? We don't talk about what happens and how people are
right.
really kind. And you get to stay a night here, you get to stay a night there, and these loving hands just come out and reach for you. Of course, there's some not unloving things out there as well, but you know, this ability to look beyond your situation and see what I call earth angels who appear along the way, whether it is a word of encouragement, a place to stay for tonight. These things do happen and they do exist.
I think about your mom, the wisdom that she's had, right? To teach you lessons along the way, knowing how difficult it was that she's homeless, her children are homeless, and bring you to church twice a week to impart some lessons, and how it really stuck. And then your brother, who's kind enough that you graduate and to present you with this book. I mean, what a beautiful family. Really, you've
Right.
had so many hard times, but what a beautiful family. Hence, from the inside out, right?
From the inside out, and it's so funny because years later I asked my brother, I said, where'd you get that book from? So I'm thinking that he went out and bought it. He goes, oh, it was mommy's book. It was on the shelf and I saw it, I read it, and I gave it to you. Right. But,
Wow.
I didn't even know enough to ask that question, but just, all those little acts, right? There's nothing random or chaotic in this seemingly chaos filled world, right? Everything can add up to your good or to my good if we allow it to, if we allow it to.
Mhm.
Now, I could have took that book and said, I'm too busy, right?
Right. And by the way, you're a doctor because you went to school to be a pharmacist, correct? Because mom said, right, mom actually planted that seed in your mind, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I actually was wanting to go to school to study acting. I had
Hmm.
done a few auditions in my town and got recognized in some local theater, and I knew that's what I want to do with my life. And my mother, rightly so, she said, what I want you to do is have a solid career to be able to take care of yourself. And I was a good math and science student, and so in her mind that meant go to medical school. And I thought, well, to another coincidence how I got to pharmacy school. But so I'm in high school and my counselor comes up to me and says, there's a pharmacy school is here and there's nobody to go there and talk to them. Will you just go in there and talk to them? I'm like, oh, sure, I'll go in there.
Why not?
Right.
Hence, now, you get a doctorate in the pharmacy and there
Right.
you are, which to
Right.
this day, right, you still are a pharmacist.
Right. Yeah, I manage a inpatient hospital pharmacy.
in Maryland, right?
Maryland, yeah, in Maryland.
Right. So you're back east, and which is pretty incredible. You're also still an actor, correct?
Still an actor. I was in a show, but we got cut short because of COVID.
Ah,
So that's going to pick back up. But I've done things with HBO, film, a lot of things. So that's still my love, right? And I believe that, for every passion, every seed you have in your passion, there is an outlet. You've got to open yourself up to it and say, with a life without limitations.
yeah. What's the point of being scared? I always say, but to me, it's way scarier to not try something. So, to your point, I'm just picked out a couple little nuggets in the book. Can we?
Absolutely.
Because they appeal to me. The art of listening. Too often we're not listening. We're listening to ourselves. Talk to me about that, about what you learned about listening, the importance of listening.
Well, first of all, I do want to talk about listening to ourselves, because a lot of this self-talk, right? We do not listen, right, to what it is that we say to ourselves. We talk ourselves down in a way that if somebody else was to stand in front of us and talk to us that way, we'd be like, what? I can't believe this, right? So we have this propensity to really put ourselves down, to really talk ourselves out of our greatness, because the ego is afraid of the unknown, right? So learning to listen to that voice inside that is behind, or maybe just a little bit softer than the ego, requires us to what? To be quiet, so we can hear. We can hear that voice inside of us that also allows us to hear other people better, instead of rising up with defense. You know how we do that, right? So the art of listening requires that we go to this quiet place within ourselves where we're always safe, no matter what's going on in the physical world, and listen.
Something interesting happened to me this week. It was almost the opposite, because I tend to believe in myself, but it's the external stuff that gets to me. 3 times this week, people, for whatever reason, called me and were flipping out about the about the election. And I mean, really flipping out. And we tend to align ourselves, which I thought was very odd. So why call me and yell? And when I hung up each time, it made me a little upset, right? Because I don't want to hear that kind of talk, negativity, because that's the next thing I'm going to ask you about. And it really affected me all week. Like, I was upset. I couldn't sleep. I internalized everything they said to me. It wasn't even about me, but it was just their ranting that got to me. What do you do in a case like that? Even though I believed I didn't do anything, because I didn't do anything. I just listened. What do you do in a case like that?
That requires us to go beyond the words, to really listen to the speaker, not so much the words, right? Because behind I had that same instance twice this weekend.
You
too.
did? Oh my
sure
gosh.
did.
I'm telling you, I couldn't breathe. But yeah,
right,
go ahead.
So what happens, right? Our ego wants to respond first, right? And the ego, I tell people, the ego has such good intentions. It just cannot do it for us. The ego has the capacity, the intellectual capacity of a 2-year-old. So all it knows is, I have been offended, attack back. Right? So you have to calm the ego down and put all your attention on the other person and hear behind the words. And what we'll see there is a frightened child. There's not to be insulting, but there's this fear-based, that maybe there's a lack of this, and if this happens, I'm going to be hurt here. And then it allows you to hear from a different perspective. You may still not agree, right? But you're able to see their vulnerability and be okay with it.
That is great. The ego. I love that. That's so well put. If you just stop and think about that, because I was internalizing all of it and just boiling on the inside, thinking, why are they doing this? What did I do? So that's very, very well put. I should have called you in the middle of this whole thing.
We all get there, because at first, I felt myself brace up, and then I just had to stop. And I said, I am listening to this person. How special is this, right? This is an insight to your soul, to your pain that resides there. And you just need an ear. You just need to let someone to let you know that you're okay. You're okay.
I'm going to combine 2 parts of the book here: negative conversation and the choice is yours, which you say, destiny is not a matter of chance. It's a matter of choice. It is not a thing to be waited for. It is a thing to be achieved. And I believe they go hand in hand: negative conversation, negative thinking, because you're never really going to get to your destiny where you should go if you hold yourself back.
Absolutely.
Am I right there?
And here comes that word we hate: discipline.
Uh-oh.
Discipline.
No, I like that word. I like that word.
So do I. So do I. But it takes.
I feel safe. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, right? But it takes discipline to decide that, I'm going to walk away from this juicy conversation because it is not moving me in the direction that I want to go in. There's a part of us that wants to hear, this negativity a little bit and be part of the no, but discipline says that this is in opposition to what I am creating in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm making the decision, making the choice to move myself along from the negative conversation, whether I'm starting it or whether I'm engaging in it. Right? I talk about that in the book. I had a hard time with that in the beginning. I had this period when I would get in conversations with people and I really didn't know what to say because I realized everybody was complaining about something at all times, right? And so I had to get in this place where I felt like it's okay to say, wow, and I can understand how you see it that way. Sometimes I feel that way too, but what I'm trying to do, right? What I'm trying to do is find the good in everything. If it is nothing else but increasing my tolerance, I'm trying
See
to
how well put that is, instead of saying, I don't want to hear it. Because very often I'll say, nope, I don't want to hear it. And then they'll say, why not? And I'll say, because it'll rile me up a little bit. Oh, really? And then they'll keep going. But the way you put it, do you see what I mean? And I'll just let the whole thing snowball. So let's hear you say it again. You say,
I understand how you could feel that way. And I've often felt that way myself, but what I'm trying to do, right? So because now I've aligned myself with them. I haven't set myself in opposition to them because their ego is also looking for something to fight, right? So if I tell them, you know what, I don't want to hear that. Like, why you don't want to hear? You think you're better than me?
well, that'll be me. I'm like, what do you mean? So, oh, I love that. And that's in the book. I'm telling you, you can even memorize them like you're an actor or an actress. Just, I think some of the terms and the way that you talk about speaking back to someone, it's logical, it's smart, and it'll keep you out of trouble for yourself and with somebody else. Am I right?
Right. And they're really small, easy tips. And what I love about the book, obviously, is small, is portable.
I'm telling you.
There are things that are in there that you already know. You need to put these things in your arsenal of conversation. And it speaks to your ego as well, too, because your ego wants to get inflamed, too. And it's like, oh, yeah, you drop that little bit of seed of soothing balm on it, and your ego calms down. Everybody walks away to their perspective, whatever corners of the world, and they feel a little bit better about having engaged with you. Even if you have not affirmed their beliefs, they just feel like, wow, you've affirmed me as a person.
The truth will set you free. That's your first chapter, if you will. And then freedom is not free. What do you mean by the truth will set you free? Being truthful with others, truthful with yourself, truthful with something that happened. Talk to us.
The truth about who you are, which is the captain of your ship, right? The best thing about this journey is that you have everything you need to save yourself, whatever that looks like for you. The worst thing about this journey for many people is that there is no one, absolutely no one coming to save you, right? So you can stop waiting for that, right? So the truth is that you are equipped to get yourself to your next level of greatness, whatever that looks like for you. You can do that. And you start, and now why is it not free? That means that you have to give up some things. You're going to have to give up this idea of being a victim no matter what has happened. And I get it. In my own journey, there are some things I'm like, well, you got to be kidding me. This too, but you have to give up the fact that you're a victim and say to yourself, I have to be the victor because I'm telling you about that in the current time that happened in the past. I'm still here talking about it. That by definition makes me the victor, right? So you got to give up that, victimhood. And that's hard to give up because many of us want to have that sad story to tell over and over again to justify why we're not moving, instead of saying, this is the reason that I had to progress in my life.
We talked about higher power, higher being, whatever that is. I could see the influence it had on you, because it's very clear. You really believe that there is a higher power. Again, if it's the universe, if it's whatever religion that you believe, that's comforting too, to believe that in a way you're really not in it alone. There's perhaps something else or someone else helping guide you, right?
And I tell people it doesn't matter what you call it, right? Because I talk to audiences all the time who don't have a belief in what we call God or whatever universe, but the same energy that holds the sun in place, right? It's some energy out there doing something, right? So we know that this energy, the universe, there's something that Einstein said that I really stick to. Every day when we get up, we have to make this decision every day, and we do, whether we know it or not. Do I live in a hostile world or do I live in a friendly world, right? So if you decide you live in a hostile world, you prepare for battle every day. This is going to be a battle. This is going to be a battle. That's exhausting. If you say I live in a friendly world, a world that supports me, you say, oh, well, that's opposition. But what happens with opposition? What happens when you do resistance training? That muscle gets stronger and stronger and stronger, right? So you make that decision. I live in a friendly universe. Now, some interesting things are going to happen. I'm going to have a great story when it's over with, but none of it has come to destroy me.
None of it. And it's in your power. What do you say to what's going on in our country right now? There's a lot of division, although what's interesting, and we clearly are divided, like truly right down the center. I choose to look at it a whole different way, that it's an opportunity to see how, in fact, what we have in common. And I'm talking now politically with what's going on. And I'll bet that you probably feel the same way, because when there were very few protests going on around the country last night and today, I thought, I wonder if people have just had it. And in fact, they'd rather just say, okay, whoever it is, we got to figure out some common ground. What do you think about that?
So again, I'm in a literature kind of mood today, but it was the worst of times, it was the best of times, right? And Charles Dickens, right? So here it is, we have all this political energy going on, right? And it's a great time for us to realize that it's okay. We are not meant to agree on everything. And we won't always get exactly what we want, but we've been through hard times before, and yet we have been the victor over those. We're still here to tell you about what we have survived. We will be here when it's over, and somebody else will have their turn the next time. And it gives us a time to exercise tolerance and love in the face of differences. We don't all want to be the same. We'd never progress. We want differences. You know, no matter how painful we look at someone, how could you believe that? You could believe that because that's where you are in your journey, and you're entitled to have your space on the world, your opinions. That's beautiful. We don't have to agree on that.
You know, people might be watching and listening to this podcast and saying, yeah, but, you know, she's a pharmacist and she's doing well, which is why I love people with a story like yours, because you certainly have had hard times in your life. And you've lived to tell about it in such a positive way to inspire the rest of us, which is why I'm going to ask people to pick this up. Freedom is your birthright. What I love most, and I mean most, it's almost like years of therapy sort of wrapped into this little book. I put it in my purse. I had it in my little iPad case, because we all need a reminder when we're just not feeling right. Like when I so honestly, I felt kind of attacked, and I didn't feel like I responded right to one person in particular because I got irritated. I literally picked this up and I said, okay, what can I get out of this? So even though you know what you're supposed to do, sometimes you don't do it. You let that part of you get the best of you. But this little guy here really helped me through. So I want to thank you. I really do.
So that's exactly how I want people to use it.
Yeah, you don't need months and years of therapy, although that's okay too, because the answers are right here, and they're right here. What would you like our listeners and viewers to know, no matter what they're going through, that has helped you?
The one thing that has helped me, which is true about each and every one of us, is right now, you possess everything you need to go to your next level of greatness. And that is because your next level of greatness has to do with your next level of service. Go within, spend some time in the quiet, find out what it is that you have to give. That's where your greatness is. I don't care if it's a smile, if it's a word of encouragement, you have something to give. And from there, your creative energy will push you forward to where you want to be in your life.
That is beautifully said. And many people might say, I don't have anything to give. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. There are a lot of people in need and who are struggling, and they just need one person to reach out for them. As you beautifully said, there were a lot of people, good people, who reached out to you and your family when you needed it. So I love that you said that.
And I was often that person. I felt like I had nothing. I'm like, what could I possibly give someone? Until I read that book, The Power of Positive Thinking. I was like, I could just give you a smile. That's it. A smile changed my day on many days in my life. Someone just smiling at me. You have something to do.
You do. So how can people find you if they want to get in touch with you, coaching, they want to listen to where you're speaking next, and of course, to pick up the book, please?
So you can find me every Monday on my show, Everyday Peace with Dr. Dravon James on the Unity Online Radio Network. My website, which is www.drdravonjames.com. I'm there. And Dr. Dravon James on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And there's one more. I can't think of the other one. Twitter. So.
Oh yeah, Twitter. Remember that? Okay.
Where I am and where I'm speaking, you know, a lot of it's virtual now, but if you're interested in coaching, and if I may, I'm giving away a 7-day Discover Your Passion, absolutely free. So if you email dravonjames@gmail.com, you'll get a 7-day course. dravonjames@gmail.com, put free in the subject line, and that'll go out to you.
Wait, Dravon James at Gmail.
And just put free in the subject line. We'll know what you're asking for, and you'll get the entry into the free webinar.
Oh, that's fabulous. I'm going to pass that around on all my social media. That's great. People need that right now. And I'm absolutely, that's wonderful. I'm going to enter myself too. I'm just kidding.
Absolutely.
Why not? You'll be like, wait a minute, what is she doing here? Anyway, thank you so much, Dr. Dravon James. I appreciate all of your insight. You're a lovely person too. I'm honored to have gotten to know you as well. So thank you, and keep in touch with us, because this is part 1 of a 5-part series, easy to digest. So thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This is an awesome show. You're doing a great service for the world.
As are you. And you can find our podcast, everybody, with Dr. Dravon James on Facebook and YouTube. We just went live there. We put all of our promos over on Instagram. And for those of you listening to your podcast, we have quite a few people out there who respond to us there as well. Apple Podcasts, we're on Amazon now, iHeartRadio, just about every place where you get your podcast. Just type in our name and you'll find us. Easy to do. And of course, Dravon James as well, and her show every Monday. So thank you for joining us. Honor to talk to you, and we'll see you next time.